ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Okay. Good morning, councillors. Good morning, officers. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting for the 24th of May. I'd like to open the meeting and firstly an acknowledgement of country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land in which we meet today, the Darrumbal people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to extend that respect to our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gungaloo Nation people, the Barada, Cabelbarra and Yetamarala people. And also acknowledge the Torres Strait Islander peoples who live and work on Torres Straits, but who are on land in Torres Straits, but who live and work in Aboriginal land. So thank you, councillors. We have a full house with just Councillor Rutherford and Councillor Wickerson are just on their way to the council. So that said, we'll move on to item 4, the confirmation of the previous minutes, that the minutes from the ordinary council meeting on the 10th of May be confirmed as a true record of those meetings. Could I seek a move in a second with regards to that one? Move Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Latcham. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried. And I need a move in a second that the minutes from the special meeting on the 17th of May also be confirmed as true and accurate record. Could I have a move in a second with regards to that? Move Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Mathers. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Declarations in interest in matters on the agenda, councillors. Have we got any declarations for this morning's meeting? If not, then there is something that arises throughout the course of the meeting. Please inform the table and we can deal with it at that time. Nil business outstanding, nil forum deputations, nil presentation of petitions, and nil councillor delegate reports. We'll move on to item 10, 10.1, the Community Assistance Program Major Sponsorship. Alicia's online. Alicia, would you like to present your report, please? Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, can I just confirm everyone can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So just, councillors, this report is recommending that we provide $15,000 towards the Rocky Swap event to be held Saturday the 6th of August next year. And this is from our Community Assistance Program. So councillors, this is something that we traditionally support and have supported over a number of years. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much. Really self-explanatory report, and one that council, like you say, have been supporters of, and a worthy event, and something there that's embedded in our community going forward.
Happy to move.
Happy to move. Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher. Councillor Kirkland, would you a question, or were you happy to
Yes, I have a question, yeah.
Question, please.
Thanks, Alicia. I notice here that you say the applicant states that funds raised are handed out to many needy local community groups over the 12 months. Do they take a gate taking, and what would those funds be? I think it's great for the community to know that the money goes back into the community and that this is a great project. I'm certainly in the affirmative as far as it goes, but I would just be interested to know what sort of dollars it does generate.
So, councillor, I don't have the budget in front of me, but they certainly do charge a gate entrance, but I'll take that question on notice and come back to councillors.
So probably the question, the entrance fee goes to the funding pool that's distributed to the community. Is that my understanding, Alicia?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, but we'll grab that, we haven't got the detail on hand, but we'll be able to provide that. I think there's an overall figure that's made to the charities at the end of the day after the event, but depending on the numbers that come through, but we can grab last year's number and maybe the year before if you like. Yeah, can do that. Councillor Latcham?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. As I understand from last year and the previous year, it's $5 per person, whether you're a stall holder or someone visiting. So across the board, it's a $5 entry fee, and then obviously that goes to their revenue.
Yeah, that's it, that's for sure. Okay, Councillor Fisher, happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Kirkland? We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further questions, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to our next item, 10.2, the Rockhampton Zoo Conservation Contribution. Liz is with us this morning. She may be able to give us an update on that report. Thanks very much, Liz. Welcome, councillors Rutherford and Wickerson. No, you're right. Thanks, Liz.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to put forward some conservation funds that we'd like to support through the zoo. You'd remember a couple of years ago we all agreed here to put 100% of our gate donations from the zoo to the ZAR Bushfire Fund to help the animals that were injured in the bushfires. And then once that finished, we dropped it back to 15% of the gate taking to be in line with our encounter money, where 15% of all our animal encounters gets put in trust for conservation. So currently we've got close to about $13,000 sitting in trust between encounter money and donation money, and we need to allocate that for this financial year, and I'd like to put forward 2 funds for that. And then I'd like to put forward 2 funds for next financial year so we can actually promote that more actively with the members of the public. So the 2 I'd like to put forward for this year, for what we'd like to do is 50% to a local conservation fund and 50% to a non-local. So 50% local would be, I have in the report here CQ Koala Volunteer Group, but I've since found out that they are winding up their research at the end of these couple of projects after 20-odd years, but they are still working very closely with Koala Research CQ, who's run through the University of Central Queensland. So we already do some research with them when they need samples from koalas and things like that, so it's quite a nice partnership there. And Alistair, who ran CQ Koala Volunteer Group, is working with the uni on their project. So I'd like to substitute for Koala Research CQ for the local one, and for the non-local FFI, which is Fauna and Flora International, which is a huge organisation. Probably most of you have heard of them. For next year, we'd like to look at Turtles of Central Queensland. They do work for the freshwater turtles within Central Queensland. Mainly they go find the nests, dig up the nests, and then bury the eggs somewhere safe with cages and electric fences around them, because the biggest problem we've got is predation on the eggs. It's almost 100% predation at the moment, so they need all the help they can get. And then the non-local conservation group for next year is the International Otter Survival Fund. So they're the 4 we'd like to put forward, and hope that you'd be happy to support us with it. It's fantastic promotion for the zoo. The public have absolutely loved it when they've found out that we're giving money from the encounters to conservation. It is expected in this day and age from the public. It is also expected from the industry, and we have actually been recognised from ZAR, the Zoo and Aquarium Association, of the good work that we've done in the last couple of years to conservation.
Yeah, and I echo those comments there, Liz. I think it's a great project, and one that deservedly receives council support. Councillor Rutherford is the portfolio spokesperson for the area. Did you want to make a comment or question at all?
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd love to move it and support this. I think it's a fabulous idea, and certainly, as Liz mentioned, an expectation of zoos in this current years, certainly that we look to protect our wildlife, and you know, our zoo staff do a lot of work in their own time to raise money, and you can see the passion, and I think they're best placed to choose which organisations receive this support. So certainly happy to move.
Yeah, and it's great to see that there's a bit of a blend there with local and international
Yes.
groups as well. We have some further questions. I'll go around the table that move Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, when I read this, I sort of couldn't remember voting on it, but obviously we did. But I'd like to see the future. I didn't realise we were giving away the money that we raised through the Encounter thing. I'd like to see the money put towards fireproofing the Chimps enclosure, because I don't think it's been funded.
Yeah, we have received funding for that,
Yes.
Councillor,
Oh, did
through
we?
the
Yes.
Black Bushfire Grant Program, and this is
okay.
a percentage of that Encounter money that goes back to it. So, Liz, did you want to?
It's only a percentage.
Yeah, it's 15%.
15%, yeah.
I just think we're good conservationists ourselves, and I think the zoo people do a wonderful job, and we've got endangered animals there, you know, and we're protecting some of these endangered animals, and we're doing the conservation work ourselves, but we're giving it away to somebody else.
But again, that's going to a good cause in their local area. If it's for turtle,
yeah.
you know, turtles nesting and things like that, I
Yeah.
think they're great programs that can help the wild animals as well as the ones that we have on display at the zoo.
And I think that's the key is zoos are in this day and age seen as ambassadors for the wild animals, and our role is to educate the public on how they can help them and help facilitate how we can help protect them in the wild, because that's the sad thing is if we keep going the way we're going in the wild, they're not going to be there any longer, and all we're going to have is zoos, which is not
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 what we
acceptable,
want. No,
yeah.
that's right.
I can give you 100 kangaroos if you'd like.
I was thinking you may have had a conflict of interest in the previous one, Councillor, so we may not have had that. Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Smith and Liz. Councillor Kirkland and then Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Liz, I'd just like to ask, I note that you've elected to do the international flora and fauna. Is there not a national flora and fauna organisation that we could be supporting?
FFI has an Australian arm, and they have projects all over the world, so we can, when we donate to FFI, specify we'd like it to be used for Australian projects.
I think that's, I would prefer that. I don't know about the rest of the table, but I think that just to bring that back to our shores and the work that they're doing here in Australia with our flora and fauna specifically would be publicly more palatable.
Yes. I actually did a fair bit of fundraising work for them for their tigers, and they were very good. If you ask them specifically for it to go to a project, they would allocate those funds, and then often I would get updates directly from that project manager in Sumatra looking after the tigers. So I've got a lot of confidence in them that they, if you ask them to put it to Australian projects, they will.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Good question, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And further to Councillor Kirkland's wanting to keep it within Australia, the International Otter Fund, I find, was an interesting, when you look up their website, they actually don't help out anything within Australia. It's around the world, and no doubt they're probably a good organisation. I guess it's a suggestion is, when we looked at the Turtles of CQ as a local conservation group, possibly the non-local one could have been, for example, the group that looks after the turtles at Mon Repos in Bundaberg. So that might have been something, while it's outside our local area, it's still keeping with the turtle theme for next financial year. But just a suggestion out there.
So what we did is we asked all the zookeepers to nominate the funds that they were interested in, and then we did a vote across the whole team, and these were the ones that they chose. And we were trying to tie it in with species that we hold at the zoo, and there aren't any otter projects in Australia because they're not native, but they do have projects in Southeast Asia with the same type of otters that we have, the little short-clawed otters. So they are doing work to protect the otters that we have in our zoo. So that's how they came up with that, basically.
And just a second thing, I noticed yesterday, I think it was International Turtle Day, so it's timely that we're looking after them, so it's a good project.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Latcham. Councillor Rutherford, did you want to wrap up? And I'll seek a seconder then.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I need to say that I certainly acknowledge in having it spent nationally. However, I would ask the table to maybe keep an open mind. You know, there may be endangered species around the world that certainly have a high priority or need some help. And so there may be an occasion where, you know, the best place for our money is for an endangered species regardless of the fact that it doesn't live on Australian shores. So, you know, orangutans or, you know, whatever happens to be the most vulnerable at the time that we can help. I think there is a place for us to be able to do that, given that our zoo also has exotic animals.
Yep, good point. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Wickerson.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Just to add to that a little bit too, from probably a different perspective, back when the koala volunteers were operating, and because I've been around for a bit, I was back at the start with Alistair, and the zoo and this group worked very closely together doing field trips to Springshaw and whatever. And that was very productive, so it was a little bit sad to see it wind up, but their work's done. But while we were doing that work, we had a group come over from San Diego Zoo and did amazing work here with our koalas, far more resources than we had. This was, we were mucking around with, tracking collars. They came with basically a whole field lab. They were doing blood sampling in the field and spinning up samples, and amazing, how much resources they had. So we benefit from, here's an American zoo coming over here, helping our species. So I guess the point is that zoos are part of a global community, and we all have to integrate and help each other.
Yes,
Definitely.
Okay, councillors, if there's no further questions to Liz, could I seek happy to move Councillor Rutherford, seek a second, Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's a massive win for the zoo and the animals and the keepers, so thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. Council, we move on to item 10.3, the 2022 Rockhampton Agricultural Show, approval for payment of prizes. Greg, would you like to speak to that report, or is it business as usual there? Councillor
Mr Mayor, I'm sorry again, I was late this morning, but I have a slight conflict with this, that with the payment, I've got I hope to have an entry into the photography section of the show, so I best leave, because it's talking about how they're paid. Not that I expect to win the $2.75 first prize, but...
Through the chair, this is how you actually get paid, not rather than a EFT or a cheque, or it's cash. That's what it's about. It's not about you winning or being appointed to it. That's my view. It's just how you actually receive winning, if you were to win.
I'm guided. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, the portfolio spokesperson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, the previous show committee used to pay EFT, and it just didn't work. A lot of people reckon they didn't get the money into their account, and there's no way of proving it sometimes. So with the cash payment, it has worked really well, and this year it'll be even better because they just go to a window there near the main ring, and they've got their ticket to say what they won and hand it in, and they get their money. It just works so much easier. And for people on the road, it's a lot easier to get the money in cash, and they can spend it around the show as well. At the time. Yeah. No,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor Kirkland, do you have a question?
Oh yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to know roughly, I mean, I'm not expecting it to be huge, but just curiosity, wanted to know exactly how much cash was going to be enveloped in total.
Greg, would you have those figures for us, please? If not, we can take it on notice.
I do, Mayor, and I suppose that's actually not part of this report, but happy to answer that question. It's around $50,000.
50,000.
50,000 in cash.
Correct.
Oh, it was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I nearly fell off my chair. Okay.
Not for just the photo one, though, because that's across the board, though, for all of the...
Sorry, did you say $2.50, Councillor Wickerson? It was 50. Oh.
Okay, thanks for that, Greg. Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Smith, you're happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Kirkland?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just because it's 50,000, is there some sort of security protocol that... Oh, thank you. Just making sure.
Can I just make a comment? Believe me, the audit committee keep a really good track of money that is spent at Rocky Show. That you can't, we can't add an event or take an event out because everything is very well audited.
Marnie might be able to give a bit more information. Thanks, Marnie.
Yeah, there is security around the cash. There's security around the float collection. For instance, Michael and I actually have to go to the bank now and collect the cash because of changes to the Commonwealth Bank's rulings. But we'll go with security ourselves, and they'll bring the cash back. Same will happen with the prize money, so float and prize money. So we're accompanied, and then it comes into our storage here. so we keep it secure. It's a challenge. Cash handling around the show is a large challenge for this organisation.
Okay, we may need to review that as we go further, but see what options are there. Anyway, we probably divulged from this report. Ross, did you? No, you're right. Could I seek a mover and a seconder if there's no further questions at all to this? Councillor Smith, you happy to move? Seek a seconder. Councillor Mathers. Councillor, put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Moving on to the whole of council corporate performance report for the period ending April 2022. Thanks very much, Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Got there. Yeah, this is our second time we've had this report presented, Mr. Mayor. I probably won't go through anything. We'll just take it as read, and if there's any questions, we can take them here. Or if councillors want to send any questions through outside the meeting, we're happy to take them there, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks very much, Ross. Councillor Fisher, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm happy to move. This is really good to get the report, and also thank Ross for making himself available to answer questions this week as well.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Councillor Fisher. I've got a couple of lights on there. Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Rutherford, and then Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Latcham. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mayor. A couple of pages. The first one's page 17 about workforce breakdown, because Randy was talking about this recently. So establishment employees, that's, I guess the vacancies are in there too, so it's about 50 vacancies or so. But further down, given that the positions are 1,052, the breakdown of male and female, the numbers don't seem to add up. I'm just wondering if I'm reading that incorrectly. So if you've got, in round figure, 600 male and 900, nearly 1,000 female and 1 gender X, doesn't seem to add up to the total employees or the establishment. I just wondered why, or was I reading it incorrectly?
Good point, Councillor. I missed that one. Yeah, it doesn't add up.
No.
I'm sorry, I can't answer it.
All right.
Take it on note. We'll
there is a, sorry, Mr. Mayor, through the chair, is it, that particular one is a little bit of tweaking as well, that I'm not completely comfortable yet with that whole presentation on that staff one. I'm still working on how to improve that presentation overall better, but I did absolutely miss that one.
Okay.
Which is a good point.
Second one's page 31, and it's probably sidetracked a bit, but it's about the showgrounds days used during the year, and I think it's 251, beg your pardon, 223 years to date. Does that include like bump-in days and bump-out days? And the reason I ask that, we have an inquiry from a local equestrian group that are looking for a home, and they were told that the showgrounds use 365 days a year. They don't expect it to be their home base, but just to have, 3 or 4 or 5 events a year. So I'm just wondering if that's the case, if we're averaging about 250, that still leaves a few vacant days, unless they're bump-in days.
Alicia's online there. She may be able to answer that one. Thanks, Councillor Wickerson.
I think it was
Alicia.
Rockhampton Equestrian.
Yeah, so that does include the bump-in days, and if I'm reading that right, so that's year to date, and we will come up more than 365 by the end of the year.
So that's year to date, Councillor. And
I was just looking at the previous. So you expect it's booked out basically for the whole of the year?
Yes, I guess, councillors. So where there'll be multiple events, it will come up to more than 365, I believe.
Yeah. No. Okay. No. Understood. Thank you. And the final one is on page 37. I can't remember what it was. This was about tree requests, and I've got a few tree requests that just in my patch that, while they might be, the numbers might match up on them. I'm just wondering what the lag time is between, or do we even know that information? So when we put a request in through Pathways, what's that would be a handy figure to see, just the measure between when the request goes in and when it actually gets actioned, because I know from the calls I'm getting back through a couple of constituents, it seems to be taking more than what our performance measure might be. I'm just saying future graphs might have that data as well. Like we can see the requests in and request action, but we don't know the time between the two.
We might, Alicia or Evan?
Through the mayor, I'll take that one on notice. For next reports, we have had trouble with vacant positions in that unit though. So that might be some of the explanation for delays.
Yeah, okay, no, thank you. I might leave it there for a minute. There's one about advertised positions, but I'll find that and let someone else have a chance.
Okay, no worries,
If I
thanks.
could just, Mr Mayor, to go back to Councillor Wilkinson, I believe, Alicia, they're down, they can't operate one crew because of the vacancies within the tree crews, or tree crews, which they're down one.
Yeah, that's right, and we're in constant recruitment, it seems, for that area.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rutherford, question?
Not a question, Mr Mayor, just a comment if I could, and that's to say thank you very much for these reports to come back. You know, it's something that the table's been asking for a little while now, and to finally see them coming up and giving us some information, it's, you know, it's certainly a great start, and I thank CEO and Ross for arranging to have this type of information brought back to the council.
Thanks. So Rutherford, it's something there that we're always looking to improve and make sure our information is the best we can get. So thank you for those comments. Councillor Kirkland, then Councillor Latcham.
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, and certainly echoing what Councillor Rutherford's saying there. It's a fabulous report, and I think it's a great opportunity for the community to see exactly how much goes on in the background. Great for us as well. And I do have a number of questions which I won't ask all today, but there are a couple of key ones which I would like to ask. And on page 24, we're looking at the outstanding customer requests greater than 6 months old there. And I'm just wondering, is that because we're setting the bar to, like, is this, what's the challenge there is what I've written.
Evan, did you want to
I'll let
speak
Ross
to that
speak
one?
on first.
Okay, Ross.
Yeah, generally, some of them could be a little bit of lack of getting around to them to get them cleared, as well as a little bit of housekeeping needs to be done. And some of them are longer term issues as well that are just not quickly solvable, but it's all captured in the system still. So it's a mixture of both, but we try to keep staff on the ball, keeping them up to date and keeping them going, but sometimes it needs a little bit more follow-up. So a little bit of housekeeping in some of it, but yeah.
Okay, so is there some sort of a measure that is in place now, to, like a trigger point where we say,
They
okay.
all get escalated, so they've all the requests have got a time frame, and then if they miss the certain times, they can then escalate up and escalate up, escalate up, escalate up. There's also some of those in there are budgetary, tied to budgets as well. So there might be a request to do a job, and they're tied to a budget, and we wait for the budget to come through, so it's a trap as well. So.
Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Rutherford, has COVID impacted on the delivery of some of those?
I think it's probably a bit more around the Ross side of it, just to follow up, just to go back and check them out.
Yep.
Moving forward then, I think it would be great, because at face value, because the community is seeing this, and at face value they could see that as a fail, and if in essence it's not, because there are long-term things and there are budgetary things, etc., is there some way of capturing that data in this? Maybe a food for thought.
So yeah, but take it on board. The councillor, certainly. The good thing about presenting this more frequently now also puts a bit more focus for organisation back on these as well. So that helps us as well. So, but yeah, definitely take that on board, Bart.
Perfect. And like I said, I did have a number of, just page 46, and this is to waste with regards to FOGO. I was just wondering if those statistics that they've got there are actually taking the FOGO into account, the commentary there and the results of the curbside tonnes being collected. Page 30.
Michael's on the line, I'm not sure whether he had any...
Happy to include that in my questions when I send it out to the LT.
Well, we could take that one on notice anyway, if that's
Take it on
okay,
notice,
if we haven't
fine.
got the answer straight away.
And I suppose just to close off, again, adding to what Councillor Rutherford has said, great report. I love the fact that the community can see this. This is to AR. I don't know whether Greg's listening, but I'd love to see, and certainly to any other department where there's been awards that have been received, also reflected in the report, because they've received some great awards, and I didn't see those reflected in this report. Just noting that they've got all of the touch points and, you know, the success in how the communication is getting out to the region, but those awards are also results that I think would be great to see reflected in this, this report.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Kirkland. There is another opportunity there too to maybe talk with the portfolio chairs as well, if there's some questions there that you could answer as well. Michael, did you have an answer to that Councillor Kirkland's question on FOGO?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I can confirm that those figures are included in those appendix. I guess my only comment to that is that because the trial is only
Michael, we're just probably hearing a little bit quiet on the mic there, so I'm not sure what's happening from your end there, but
I got the gist. He
I
said
think
it is included.
okay, right.
You're just breaking up a bit, Michael.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. And just a few questions through to Ross, I'd imagine. It's about the staff turnover, 11.33%, which it says it's acceptable. First question is, how does that compare to pre-COVID times, say 5 years ago, as a general comparison?
I don't have that comparison pre-COVID. I guess one of the issues we're facing is the impact from resourcing sector and that whole, while it's not direct competition with the mines, with the local ones that are actually seem to be losing, say, trade people to the mines, and we're competing with those. So it's it depends on the economy at the time, but I would have to find out what they were back then. I don't have the historical data.
Sorry, Ross, around 2009, 2010, I think it was a tad over 15%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the mining.
Same.
And again, it wasn't directly the mines itself, it was all the support industries around it, so your mechanics, fitters, turners, that type of sparkies.
Yep. And thank you. And secondly, on that issue, staff turnover, is there a specific group within council that has a higher than normal proportion as part of these figures? Is it Parks, for example, or is it IT, or is there a specific, because this report doesn't go that level, but...
Yeah, I don't have the stats, but yeah, it's something we can dive into. But yeah, I couldn't report here at the moment exactly what it is. It's
I think
a bit of
just
a mixture.
Going through the vacancies when they come across the desk for approval, it is around at this point in time, it is around your trades down to your labourers is probably the higher proportion of where it's going through. Not so much the professionals, but I think another 12 months you'll have your professional staff be appearing more in this one. That's how it happened last time.
Yeah.
So planners and engineers.
Thank you. And the last question is, in the reports, love the reports, but just probably a suggestion when it comes to water consumption, is it possible to compare apples with apples so that it's an approximate amount of kilolitres per person, approximate population, as opposed to just a bunch, North Rocky versus Mount Morgan versus, it just doesn't give you that approximate. When you talk about, do we use more water in North Rockhampton compared to people in the community up at Mount Morgan, for example. So it'd be nice to know apples with apples on a per person or a population basis, approximately. It's never going to be accurate, but an approximate.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Latcham. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I just wanted to say also through you to Ross, thanks very much for the report also, Ross. It's really good, and I notice I see it's sort of evolving a little bit since the last one as well, so as it gets forward, hopefully it'll get easier for you and your team to put together, but also, it'll tick all the boxes what we're looking for. But a lot of my questions have been answered, but I just wanted to quickly go back to, in regards to staff turnover, because obviously that's a real indicator as to how we're doing as an organisation with retaining staff and making sure that our staff are, that staff are happy to be here. But I note that 11.33% it says that it seems to be an acceptable rate. But I also note that with the research I did, its national average turnover is about 8.2%. So we're still sitting quite a bit higher. I'm just wondering, do we have any gauge 11.33 compared to what other local councils? Because I understand that councils might have a higher rate than the
I'd
average.
imagine resource councils would be in that space, so it may be something there that we could have a look at.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. Through the Chair, if we're talking comparative to local governments, there's no published data I'm aware of we can compare with other councils. We could potentially scratch through councils' information on the websites to see whether they have any of that data, but we haven't gone to that stage yet. We've just gone to probably not an industry standard, but a business type standard that a healthy turnover is, 8 to 10% in that range. So that's what we tend to gauge on. But we can keep an eye out for other statistics if councils have that interest. Yeah.
No, thanks, Ross. I don't want to make any more work for you. I was just wondering whether, because this is still, quite a bit higher than national average, I was just wondering whether local government are naturally higher than what, in it, because obviously averages is always higher and lower. So I was just wondering if we had those figures, that was all. Thank you.
Yeah, from what I understand, within the CQ Rock area, it's about the same. We're all in the same boat, struggling to get good staff.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mathers. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mayor. Just these last few questions I had, and it's in the workforce area again. The breakdown between internal and external staff, I'm just wondering to our figures, because they're a little bit disproportionate. I would have expected to see 50-50, going back to a million years ago when I was here. How does this line up with benchmarking from other local governments? Are we on target, or is the balance out?
That's about right now. We're actually probably got more external employees than some of the other organisations around, because they contract out a lot more than what we do. You're finding that local government, I think in years to come, that proportion will keep growing, internal versus external. The external will probably stay quite static, but that internal function is growing. There's more regulatory, there's more responsibilities are coming through. And we, as a council, have a fairly large offering when it comes to that. When you start to throw in, not so much home assist, but your childcare, your art gallery, airport, and all those features, and Vance Rockhampton, they're all internal staff.
Yeah,
So
I
there's a high
suspect
proportion.
that it's like the changing nature of local government. It's not only just roads and rubbish anymore. We're doing so many more things out there that
Make our community livable.
It is about that 40-60 split.
Yeah, as long as we're benchmarked with that. And what I want to touch on too is the recruitment, and these figures don't seem to match up with what our positions are either. We've got, 60 being actively advertised for, and around 40 that we put on hold, which I'm relieved to see a little bit. But those numbers, so there's about 100 there that are still vacancies, which doesn't seem to tally up with the difference between established and employee numbers. So I guess, do those figures, the established numbers, do they take into account casuals as well? Because that might get it closer, but it still seems to be a little bit out.
Through the chair, the established numbers there do generally take into account the casuals. One of the challenges, and this is one of the bits I'm not quite happy with, but it also takes in supplementary roles, which can be, for example, if someone decides to job share, well, all of a sudden you have two people, like you have same one FTE, but you'll have two people doing it. Or if we need to put someone, someone's got to change their PD for a while and do some other jobs, so we've got to create this other position that's called a supplementary position, so it includes them as well. I'm not currently at a true reflection of it, of everything, so that's why I need to do that.
The tweaking with
a little bit more work in that space, more for, a bit more simplicity and easier to read, that sort of thing. I'm not finding it simple enough. I just haven't got to that one, unfortunately, the last month.
And I mean, like other councils said, I'm really pleased to see this level of detail, and we could keep drilling down forever, but this is fantastic, and especially after recent comments I made about the vacancies. I'm glad to see that those numbers there are just been put on hold for the moment while we sort of reassess.
Sorry, those holes aren't because of our...
Oh, no, but that was the sort of detail that...
Yeah, we've always constantly got positions on hold as we move through, and someone leaves and we have a bit of a look around what we can do, so that position goes on hold. So that's a constant one. You'll probably find us around that 30 to 40 or 50 around that whole lot. Yeah. Probably, sorry, Mr Mayor, just to highlight the one is one really things that I think we do well as an organisation or as a council is supporting our young people through those apprentices and trainees. When you look at that 40 to 41, that's a fairly big intake that we take on. Yes, we get supported through some government funding, but there's a real commitment from the council towards skilling our young people, and so they stay in the region.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, through you to Peter, if I could, and it's the civil operations projects. Urban West is only 35% of budget. Given we've only got, I guess, a month and a half left, are we going to reach target there, Peter? Sorry, yeah. No.
We're severely suffering from, effectively, COVID is really taking its toll right across, not so much rural, but those two areas are way down. So, yeah. It also was, if you recall, we did use some of those resources for the footpath project as well.
Yes, yeah, which was a bit of my concern when we did that. But so what will happen with that stuff? Will it carry over?
It just will shift, like every project in civil operations. We're just sliding them to the next year.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Evan, did you want to update on that COVID one? No, it's just, it's impacted the whole our council delivery in that department, so.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I get that. It's probably just more so to make sure, I guess, that nothing drops away.
Heading into the...
Because that's separate even to our capital.
Yep.
So there'll be still works that need to be done.
We're heading into the flu season now too,
Season
so it's not going to ease up anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, the depot, Dooley Street Depot's been an ongoing for months now with COVID through there. So.
Councillor Wixson.
Thank you. Final one, I promise. This is really just a chance to put on public record some gratitude or some thanks. The first one is Homeless Connect. There's a very small team over in the communities area led by Alicia. They put an amazing amount of work into making sure that that's a great event. A number of councillors were there too. Thank you very much for coming along and chatting to the folk. Numbers were down a little bit because I think we've had 2 years hiatus from it and maybe getting back up to speed again. We also try and actively promote the event through the agencies so you don't get people there that think they might need a hand, but they're just after a free sample bag, you know. But in hindsight, that may have also deterred some people. So now the thinking is, and we've got to benchmark this or engage them all, but to maybe accept that there's going to be some people turn up that maybe aren't quite in the category need a hand, but at least we'll capture more of the ones that do. So maybe that's a small trade-off. But just to say that alongside council, working with the community, we had about 40 other agencies thereabouts, all working to give these people a hand up, but also a comment we got back when we did a bit of a debrief. So good for these agencies that can build silos sometimes to actually be networking with each other too and with council, so that was really good. The second one is, and we've all been involved in this, the National Volunteers Week. Good opportunity for us to get out there and meet volunteers from Pilbeam Theatre, Art Gallery, the Zoo, I think, Archer Park Station, Heritage Village, you name it. And just to go back a bit, we haven't actively done that for a number of years before. I think then we did 1 day a year, I think, as part of River Festival, which was great. But this is actually to see them face to face, sit down with them, have a cup of tea and a sausage or whatever, and chat to them, and they really appreciate that. So it's I think a very small way, but a practical way that we can say, yeah, thanks for all your help, because the thousands of hours that they give to make our community better is invaluable. So you can't put a price on that.
You're right, and it's showing that appreciation and the value that they do provide our community. Unfortunately, I burnt the sausages at the Heritage Village, so I've been off the tools for a while. So,
You've been taken.
But anyway, I'll improve next year, so set the bar high. Thanks, Ed. Thank you, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Smith, Councillor Kirkland.
Yeah, just talking about the our civil ops, and I have passed this on to Peter. Instead of getting complaints, which you get all the time, I've had 2 messages complimenting our teams. We might be a little bit slow getting to the roads, but they do a quality job. One was in Bouldercombe and one at Gracemere. So they said they just went above and beyond, and now they've got a beautiful road. So it's really good to get a compliment every now and then instead of complaints.
Yeah, and again, it's their work site is in the public view, and it's easy to criticise and see people when they're impacted that way. But that said, it's great to get feedback, and I'm sure Peter will pass that on to the teams and let them know that that's been well received. So thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and definitely Councillor Wickerson. Congratulations is absolutely through to the communities, and as Chair of Portfolio, to you as well for pushing that agenda. So for the volunteer recognition, thank you for participating in all of those, and to all of the team for making it happen. I also, just not wanting to go backwards, Mr Mayor, but really wanted to chime in back on the back end of what Councillor Rutherford was saying about the delivery of this Urban West, the 35% only being done. I just wanted to ask, it's not just COVID though, is it, Peter? It's also the supply of certain materials is it that's impacting that?
Peter, thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, the supply of pipes particularly, so that's what has delayed some of the projects. There's a 3 to 4 month delay in getting materials now, so that's impacted. But remember, the fundamental is the shift to build 11 or $15 million worth of footpath. That was the
Yep. Yeah. And that's the impact in other industries as well, and it's all that combined problems that everyone's facing at the moment have forcing these delays.
That's right. I think for the community to know that the council are not immune to the same constraints that every business is actually experiencing across the region.
Yeah, good point, Councillor Kirkland, thank you. Councillor Rutherford, and then we might wrap it up.
Yeah, sorry, Mr Mayor, but it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the retirement of Steve Hughes and publicly thank him for the role he played in council. You know, our staff are wonderful and what they give this organisation, but Steve Hughes went above and beyond the call of duty, you know, through a rough time of a forced amalgamation. He was a key player in helping our rural areas feel part of the council and feel like they were understood and cared for. So I'm wondering if we could put
that'd be fine. If you would like to move that we write a letter of congratulations to Steve on his work and time effort throughout his career at council, and happy to do that if you'd like to do that. Yeah, for his efforts to the Rockhampton region.
There's often some quiet achievers and unsung heroes in our organisation, and I wish we had the opportunity to recognise them all, and sometimes we're remiss in that, but he was certainly a quiet achiever.
Good effort there. Yeah, good point. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Fisher, you've moved that.
Yes.
You happy for that to include?
Chair, Mr Mayor, all of the positive comments. I think I should know how to use a mic. No, I did.
Councillor Fisher he moved it earlier. Sorry, just for that one, but you've added the other one. So look, whether we have two separate motions, so we'll move the first one and then move the second one, Councillor Rutherford, to make that... Sorry. You right with that?
No, Mr Mayor, I would rather that two separate motions.
Okay, two separate motions.
It gets lost in the minutes.
Yep. Okay, so we'll move the first motion, councillors, then we'll move the second motion with that for that letter. So the first one is that the officer's recommendation that the whole of the council corporate performance report for ending the 30th of April be received. Councillor Fisher has moved. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Latcham. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimous. And Councillor Rutherford has moved the acknowledges the contribution of Steve Hughes to the Rockhampton region, in particular the rural areas that, on his retirement and his work in the rural areas. So that's a great report. So Councillor Rutherford's happy to move, and Councillor Smith, you'd love to second.
Can I just make a comment, Mr Mayor? And Steve used to actually go to all the ratepayer meetings as well. I think he lived at the coast, and he must have been very, very late when he ever got home. But, you know, fantastic. I think 23 years he's been doing the rural roads, just knows them like the back of his hand.
Yep. And if you've got a property, he's happy to babysit it for you.
Yeah. Okay, councillors, we've got a mover and a seconder with regards to that recommendation, so I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We're moving on to the 10.5, the revised policy, expenses, reimbursement and provision for facilities for the Mayor and councillors, and hand over to Damon to walk us through that report. Thanks very much, Damon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the report for your consideration this morning just relates to the formal adoption of the expenses, reimbursement and provision of facilities for Mayor and councillors policy following the recent resolution of Council at its last meeting on the 10th of May 2022 in relation to the approval process for councillor travel as it relates to those external organisations for which councillors have been appointed to. Those following that resolution at the last meeting, that amendment has been now formalised in the amended policy before you, but happy to take any questions.
Councillors, questions? Councillor Kirkland, Councillor Wickerson.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Damon, can you point out to me, it's probably in there, but I may have missed it, just with regards to if we're going away and we're combining private business with council business, like if we wanted to go away and kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, is there provision for that in this, or is that not allowed to happen? I don't understand. If you could just...
CEO or Damon, yep.
It's not specifically referred to in the policy. That said, if there were to be other personal travel connected with your official business, then that's obviously for respective councillors to meet any financial responsibilities there. There are provisions in the policy that relate to what expenditure will be reimbursed by council, and that relates specifically to that function of your official council business.
So we can accommodate. So, for example, if you've got a meeting in Brisbane on a Friday, you can fly down on, and it's at 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Council will pay your travel down, your overnight accommodation, anything associated with that meeting, and then you want to come back on the Monday and spend the weekend in Brisbane and so forth, then you would be up for your accommodation and meals from basically Friday lunchtime all the way through to your departure on Monday morning back to Rockhampton.
Yeah. An example helps paint the picture there. Thank you. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Because I think I was responsible for the very first one of these, happy to move this when it comes up, happy with the changes. But first of all, I just wanted to say, if we were travelling away to an environment conference, killing two birds with one stone may not be. Anyway, more seriously, the date, through you, Mr Chair, to Damon, the date of April 24, was that purposely put before our local government election that year? I was just thinking, if it was just a random date, maybe to leave it till after the election was settled for that particular councillor and mayor. Hopefully it's all of us, but you never know, to make that decision.
Through the chair, the date was selected to coincide with the next local government election after. That said, that review process typically is undertaken fairly immediately after the quadrennial election. Obviously, from a timing perspective, that's a matter for the council table as once it's the new council has been elected, as far as working through some of the mechanics of that. That's not to say that the actual policy will be formally necessarily adopted in April 2024. That's just when that review process will commence.
Yeah. Okay. No, all good.
Makes sense. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. So you're happy to move? Yep, happy to move. Seek a seconder, councillors, if there's no further questions. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much. Councillors, 10.6, repeal of a resolution, Merrill Chain, the alteration of the summary budget. The alteration. So, Damon, straight across to you with this one.
Through the chair, this next report, councillors, is seeking your approval for a repeal under section 262 of the local government regulation of the former council resolution regarding the alteration to the Merrill Chain. That part of the resolution, as outlined in the report, has been unable to be acted upon since that time of original passing by council due to the absence, if I can put it that way, of approved budget over the last 2 financial years. In the current environment, that may, obviously subject to council's consideration of the upcoming budget, is likely to continue, one might expect, and in the absence of funding, not currently in a position to be able to enact that particular part of the resolution. As noted in the report, councillors, to the extent that council were to approve the recommendation before you this morning, that's not to say that at a future time, should circumstances change, that matter can't be addressed at a future time. But again, happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Damon. Councillors, questions? Councillor Wickerson, then Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm happy to move this one as well for two reasons. I think I wasn't terribly supportive when it was first discussed for a couple of reasons. One is that the chain and even the crest is part of our history, and we probably shouldn't tamper with that. Make a brand new one by all means, but then the cost of it comes into it. We must do that either. But my understanding was that the crest proper was very formally laid down when we amalgamated. I know we're not now, but I think there was even like a clergy involved in, and there's a very formal process of laying the thing down and basically not tabling it, but parking it. And then we move on with that. So and then it all of a sudden resurrected itself, and I never understood how we could just simply do that. So so happy for a range of things. The cost of it, I think it's inappropriate that it's part of our heritage, and it should remain so as is without fiddling with it. Although acknowledging that we are encompass more than what's on the crest now, but that's for another day, I think.
Yeah, no, that's right. Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, I agree with the
Happy to second
recommendation as well. I think it's just not a priority for us at this point in time. I do, however, wonder whether we could put a bar on it that recognises Rockhampton City Council, Fitzroy Shire Council and Mount Morgan Shire Council. So it wouldn't be very expensive, just an engraved bar that recognises the three councils that now make up the Rockhampton Regional Council.
Councillor Damon.
Through the chair, happy to take that on board, Councillor. I'm not in a position to be able to indicate, though, as far as what that expense may be. The initial indications had been, though, that given the nature of the existing chain and the significance of the alteration that had been originally proposed, and that I think $35,000, $40,000 or $30,000 to $40,000 price range was reflective of the actual intricate nature of the work, if I can put it that way, that would be required. So I appreciate, yes, the inclusion of a bar may not on its own seem to be significant, but it may. I'd certainly need to come back to council on that, though, as far as what that might actually entail.
I haven't opened up the Merrill chain box for some time now, so I'd have to go back and refresh myself with it.
It sits on material, I believe, so it could be just a pin-on bar that sits somewhere on the material that just recognises the three councils. Maybe can I just ask for a report to come back on that without it sort of delving too much, taking too much more time, Damon, because
Can we just do it just for the information bulletin at this stage? Like just to get the information.
I'm happy. Just it doesn't matter how it's done. Just if we could have a quick look at it and see whether it's, because that is our history as well. So it would be nice to see that recognised just in some way, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but just somewhere on that chain, because I think it's appropriate that the Mayor wears that chain on formal occasions, but so it would be good to just acknowledge the other local government areas.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Smith, Mathers and Fisher.
Yeah, look, I agree with the recommendation, because I think, well, no one ever gets close enough to it to really see what's on it. And I remember when I went out to public consultation and people couldn't understand, like, the wool bales, which was part of our history. I think it's like, I didn't know what those little squares were for a while until someone told me it was wool bales on the wharf. And I thought it was great, but I think most people commented and said, that doesn't reflect Rockhampton, but it's a history thing. But I agree with what Councillor Rutherford's saying about the it had just have a little bar. And to me, it's just like a name badge. It shouldn't cost much.
I was just looking at the gavel. It's got 4 when we were 4. It should be 3 bits of timber now.
I thought you were going to bang it on me. Shut me up.
Sorry, no, sorry, Councillor Smith. And yeah, you're right. It's the one that probably don't take into that detail of what's on there as well. So, Councillor Mathers and Councillor Fisher.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm happy to support this as well, Mr Mayor, in regards to, obviously given our budgetary constraints that we've got and the amount of time that we're spending trying to find every last dollar, $40,000 I'm sure can be better spent elsewhere. So I'm, like I say, I think it's great that this has come to the table, and I look forward to maybe quite a few more things like this come to the table that we can put on hold and put some money back into the budget.
Yep, thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I was told last week at a Western Council that there was a former mayor that was very, very good at throwing the gavel at a councillor there that would not adhere to the meeting. So that has not had a real busy history, that's for sure. Yeah. But, yeah, I was thinking that too. Mr Mayor, I think as we're going through this process, the other part that I would like to see is addressing the floral emblem and those. We still haven't got to that. And honestly, when you think about it, as with this Merrill chain, it would be just nice to go back to the floral emblems before amalgamation, so that the Fitzroy Shire, the Mount Morgan Shire and the Rockhampton emblems were just recognised again. That way there we've got to go through no cost, but just bringing each one of those back up that was identified.
Damon, did you have a...
Through the Chair, there is a, subsequent to this particular resolution of Council, I believe Councillor also raised, there was a notice of motion that was brought to Council in relation to emblems, civic emblems. That's a matter that's still ongoing. Again, just from a resourcing perspective, we've not been in a position to be able to undertake the detailed community consultation in relation to that, but it is expected that that will incorporate not only the broader civic emblems but also floral emblems as well. But obviously with the, I guess, other priorities at the moment from an operational perspective, it's on the list to do.
Yeah.
So that will be something that will come back to Council.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Rutherford, are you happy to second resolution? Thank you. Councillor, we have a mover and a seconder. I'll put those in favour. Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Damon, for your report. Moving on to item 10.7, the summary budget management report for the period ending the 30th of April. Marnie, would you like to present that report, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, everyone. So this is a report for the budget management for the period up to the 30th of April 2022. So currently we're at 83% of the financial year. Our operating revenue results are showing a percentage above that at 94%, due mainly to our rates and charges. I will note from the corporate performance report, we talked about water consumption in that space, and we probably need to acknowledge that our water consumption will be down for the period in the last month because of the good rain that we've had. So that may have an ultimate impact on what our revenue is from our water consumption through the year, but we're monitoring that as we move through the financial year now. You'll note that our grants and subsidies and contributions are ahead of budget, and this is due mainly to the receipt of the 22-23 financial assistance grant in full during April, which was unexpected. We've had no communication yet from the Local Government Grants Commission in relation to the payment of that full amount. We've also seen that our interest revenue is ahead of budget as well. Our operating expenditure is around the 78% of the monthly budget. Employee costs are below budget at 77%, and that's also reflected in the corporate performance report where we identified those number of vacancies for employees. Contractors and consultants are at 69%, and plant materials are up at around 94%. Again, around costs of increased level of recoverable works that Council's been participating in, and we're still dealing with some of that turbidity issue in terms of treatment of water at Glenmore Water Treatment Plant. Asset operational is around the 77%, but we expect that that will come into budget as we move through with the timing of the billing. Our capital income is sitting at 60% of the monthly budget review, and capital expenditure is at 40%. We're still monitoring that through our capital program, and as Council is aware, through our recent discussions around budget, we'll be looking at that capital, overall capital program and seeing which of those projects will be deferred until 22-23. Total investments are sitting at 104 million up to the end of April, and loans are at 126.1 million. We're still to draw down the loan that was approved for this financial year through QTC, and we're making those arrangements currently to bring in those funds. So we did see 6.9 million spent during April on capital projects, but again, it's not getting to the level that we had anticipated when we set the original budget. So, like I said, we're monitoring that and we'll make changes to the capital program.
Okay, thanks very much, Marnie. Councillors, questions? Councillor Rutherford, then Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Marnie, I just hoping you can explain something to me, help me understand something. So we know our employee costs are down, but our monthly budget review actually increased on the adopted budget.
For employee costs, is that
for
what you're
employee
saying?
costs?
Yeah, that would have been reflected for when we did that review in December or even October. Councillor Rutherford, we would have made some adjustments at that time. So we haven't done a monthly budget review since the end of December. And I guess in the 4 months since then, we've seen less vacancies or more vacancies not filled. So that's had an impact on the employee costs that are hitting the actuals.
So should it say quarterly budget review rather than monthly budget?
We don't do the monthly budget review every month, like we did the last monthly budget review in December. So yes, this is the monthly budget report, this isn't the review.
All right.
Yeah, is it a technical?
So
It's the use of monthly budget review.
Yes, versus report.
Yeah.
because I couldn't understand why when
It's just a budget review.
employee numbers are down, would our costs go up? That doesn't, I can't get my head around that. The other one is that the materials and plants have significantly risen and continuing to rise.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
There's probably a number of inputs that have altered that. We are still sitting within budget, so we're sitting at that 94% for materials, but we're seeing increases, you know, if we take into consideration our fleet costs or our fuel costs, that, you know, we know that that's gone up by 11% in the last...
About 20%, I think, across some of those areas. There's 20% increases in fuel and having a really big impact on us.
Yes.
Those sitting within budget but is on a revised budget, it's not on the adopted budget, is that right? So the percentage, like when we say it's sitting within budget and it's sitting at 94%, that is but the revised budget, not the adopted budget.
Yeah, that's the monthly budget review column. So the second column on that statement, it's comparing it to that budget.
So, but it's significantly over what was adopted.
Yes, that changed. Yeah, we did see some change to the adopted budget for that, for those materials and services and materials and plant costs at 13.08. 13.684.
There's probably two parts in there, Councillor Rutherford. I probably need to get Marnie and the team to drill into it. I think you'll find there's one is those general cost increases come through from the adopted to the budget review period, but also within that, Peter's footpath projects has also had that impact as well of additional materials and plant being expended on those capital works they're not capital works, on those construction footpaths. So they weren't in the adopted budget, those footpaths that we did for main roads. So within that increase would be the increase in our general costs with the budget, but also the increase from the footpath projects that Peter had as well.
So there would be
Up-
revenue,
Yep.
aligning revenue somewhere in there.
If you look up there on the revenue side of it.
Against the private and recoverable works.
Yeah,
as
private and
well.
recoverable works, that's about $6.8 million. So,
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Kirkland?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and it's kind of just delving in that similar area there, just around the revenue. I did have a question, Marnie. With the revenue, I see that you've mentioned that we got paid that federal assistant grant money in advance.
Yes.
Which was kind of an anomaly and weird. But the TMR road, like footpath money, has that come in as well as the Rookwood grant, the Rookwood money for the allocations, the work that we're doing, that AR are doing in that space? Are they included in this revenue as well?
Yeah, so the income for the revised budget for that Rookwood Weir is captured in the grants and subsidies area. In relation to the TMR works, that's recoverable works income. So that will be coming in periodically as we're issuing invoices, and we still have a number of invoices to issue for not just that work, but for other works as we move through to the end of the financial year.
Okay, awesome.
probably just to help, if I could, Mr Mayor, that financial assistance grant, it's the anomaly really is it's been paid in full and in
yes.
this year. So normally we get paid half.
Half, 50%.
And
yeah.
right, so this is the full amount, so which is a little bit unusual.
And because it's been paid into this financial year, when it's actually for next financial year, that messes with the books, doesn't it?
That's correct. It makes the
Yes.
books look healthy for this year and makes the deficit for next year, which is not really a deficit because you've got money.
Okay, councillors. Marnie, thanks very much for that report. Councillors, could I, if there's no further questions, seek a mover and a seconder with regards to Marnie's report? Seconded Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. 10.8, the 22-23 Rockhampton Airport Annual Performance Plan. Ross, would you like to present that report for us, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll do this on Marcus's behalf. He's actually been off sick yesterday, and hopefully he's going to get into the office this afternoon. He's still unwell this morning, but hopefully get in. So I'll present this, Mr Mayor. I want to catch up. Mr Mayor, pretty much the same as last year as far as our measures go, the financial and non-financial. The numbers won't finalise till we actually adopt or get close to adopting the budget. Once council say, right, let's get the budget, happy with that, we'll go away and get the budget presented. These plans, all three of them, will then get finalised with the final numbers. So that's why I think the resolution is just endorsing it at the moment. But there's nothing there, Mr Mayor, that's probably different from last year's, where we've found that most of the measures, one or two, the financial ones could be tuned a little bit, but I mean, for the airport in particular, but by and large, I think the rest captures a good review of the airport, but happy to take feedback.
Okay, thanks, Ross. Deputy Mayor, Portfolio Spokesman, do you have any comment or questions on that?
No, happy to move and maybe sort of reserve my right at the end of...
Yep, that's fine. Councillor Rutherford, you got a question?
Mr Mayor, what's the difference between endorsing and adopting, and why are we doing either when we don't know it's the correct information? Why do we not just sit it in limbo until we know what the budget figures are?
Through the chair.
Yeah, Ross.
And the endorsing is so you're happy with the content, what makes all the other stuff behind it, like there's non-financial performance indicators in there as well. Happy with the actual indicators and all the other data in there. Because if we don't, I guess don't want to get to the adoption right at the end and council's not happy with it, with what's in there. They want more work done, have more questions. So it's trying to get all the groundwork done before the actual formal adoption. So when we come to the budget meeting, it's basically a formality, I guess, for want of a better term.
So why can we not approve in principle and then endorse it when...
Is that semantic though?
Sorry?
Is that the same thing though, really?
Well, no, I thought when
Endorse.
something was endorsed, it was...
Yep, through the chair. I'm sorry, councillor.
No, you're right.
Sorry, yeah, that's my words, councillor. I'm happy to... You're right, you can improve in principle, that's fine. That's just my words I did in at the time.
Yeah, I just would be more comfortable with that, given we don't know that the stuff in there is necessarily what will stay. And the reason why I was a little bit tentative about this, the paid car parking equipment, I couldn't actually find that on the capital. It is in there? Whereabouts is that?
It's in the, sorry, Peter, it's in the, under Andrew's team, major projects, delivering that, so it's under that section.
It's not under the airport.
It's under major projects. It was
Major
part of the airport upgrade project, the whole thing. So this was triggered when we were redoing the outside of the car park and the sensors. So, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I was looking under the airport and couldn't find it, so, yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Fisher, you're happy to move. Could I seek a seconder? Councillor Latcham. I'll change the wording to in principle.
Yeah, I have no issues with that. Mackay type of thing, yeah.
Remove indoors. Yep.
Needs to be approved in principle.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Move Councillor Fisher and second Councillor Latcham. Councillor Fisher, do you want to wrap up? You're right with that?
Yeah, look, I'm happy just to
make it that. Okay,
yeah.
councillors, no further questions. I'll put the motion. Those in favour, those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to our last item, the 10.9, the 2022-23 Regional Waste and Recycling Performance Plan. We have Michael online. Ask Michael to present that report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, councillors. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better now.
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
A rookie area. I don't think I had my microphone in front of my mouth. It was above my head. So apologies. Look, similarly, I think this performance plan is very similar to last year and previous plans. It's more just updating it based on current information and current statistics. No proposed amendments to either the financial or non-financial performance KPIs. So probably just happy to leave it at that and answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thanks very much, Michael. The report's there. Councillor Latcham, as the portfolio spokesperson, would you like to
happy to just go with the report. It's pretty comprehensive.
Yep. Councillors, could I seek a seconder with regards to that report? Councillor Fisher. Thanks very much, Michael. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, councillors. Councillor, we do have an item to be dealt with in closed session, but sorry, Councillor Rutherford.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just before we move on, I'm wondering whether next time we have these, whether we could have the previous report with its, the previous year with the information, the key performance indicators that are in this, the accompanying information with that. So we know, at the moment we're guessing that we're getting those percentages right and everything else. So it would be really good to have the performance review with the new performance documents.
Ross, would you have a comment?
Yep, not a problem, Mr. Mayor. We report that quarterly in the operational report, so we can duplicate that into that. Yep.
Yeah, and I know we get that quarterly, but it would be good
just
to
helps
have
when we have
it
these
rather
reports.
than going back trying to find those quarterly things just to see. Yeah.
Good point, and it's only, again, helping the decision-making and information to councillors, so happy for that. Councillors, we do have a closed item in closed session, but I'd like to call for a recess for 15 minutes before we come back and deal with that one. So could I seek a mover and a seconder that we have a 15-minute recess? Move Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Wickerson. We'll move into a recess. So I'll put that. Those in favour, those opposed, motion's carried. Thank you.
I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
And, yep, thank you. Councillors, we're back to the meeting. Well, could I seek a mover and a seconder that we resume our meeting, please? Move Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour, those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Councillors, we're moving on. We have one item to be dealt with in closed session. It's a minor alteration to the organisation structure. And in accordance with section 254J 3B of the Local Government Resolution 2012, that consider it necessary to close the meeting to discuss industrial matters affecting employees. So, councillors, could I seek a mover and a seconder that we move that one? Councillor Kirkland, seconded Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. And a mover and a seconder that the meeting be taken into closed session. Move Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Kirkland. I'll put that. Those in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. And the meeting now be moved into closed session.
Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine.
Live. We right, Linda? Okay, thank you. Councillors, we're seeking the officer's recommendation. Could I have a mover and a seconder with regards to the recommendation that the organisational structure changes as indicated in the attachment to this report be adopted? Move Councillor Fisher, have a seconder. Councillor Smith, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, councillors. That being the last item on our agenda for this morning, I'd like to thank everyone for your involvement and the officers for their reports and close the meeting to the public. Thank you.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that